Scott, I thought I'd shake things up a little bit in your neighborhood.
Oh, what did you do? That's
Well, she came from the Tanner, so
I noticed.
what did she not do?
I noticed there were a few people out walking and doing their thing, so I cranked Prince Delirious. I had all the windows down and the top open, and I was singing at the top of my lungs. Everybody smiled at me, though.
and she screeched into his driveway.
I didn't really screech.
There'll be a reply to all email to the neighborhood association tomorrow.
Reply all.
I thought might as well shake things up a little bit in this bucolic, quiet little
not?
paradise of Scotty Buds. All right, hold my beer. From cave drawings to family histories to stories around the fire, humans crave order among chaos, connection amid isolation. So we tell stories. Our mission at the Storytellers Network is to bring the art of story to the masses. Whether you're in marketing, you're an entrepreneur, or you're developing your own personal brand, telling your story effectively can make the difference between celebrating milestones and collecting unemployment. The Storytellers Network strives to help storytellers tell their stories so you can learn from the best. Now, your host, the inbound evangelist himself, Dan Moyle.
And welcome to the Storytellers Network podcast. I'm so glad you're joining me today again. If you are a first-time listener, welcome. If you're returning, I can't wait to share this newest episode with you. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of chatting with three people who have a great local podcast here in Southwest Michigan. These three have worked in radio together over the years. One of them is still in radio, actually. And they now host a podcast together. Steph, Scotty Bud, and Diane welcomed me back to their show, Southwest Michigan's fake radio show, for a fun experiment. It's kind of like a DC Marvel crossover or something, or a NBC, ABC crossover. I got to take over their show and ask them my questions about storytelling. Their episodes go live on Thursdays, so their audience has heard it. Now it's your turn. We dive into podcasting as their chosen medium, how it compares to radio, how technology shapes storytelling, and even some personal stories. It was a ton of fun for us, so I hope you enjoy it as well. And as we get into today's episodes, a little reminder to visit thestorytellersnetwork.com for more episodes, how to contact us, and for other resources to help you tell your story. And that, after all, is the goal. Help you become a better storyteller. There are resources there for people and shows that are really good at giving you those tactical strategies. Hopefully the Storytellers Network as a show is a little more inspiration and just to get you motivated. So yeah, those resources are there online. And if you like what I'm doing here, please leave a review. It helps me reach new storytellers. Now, let's get to the stories.
We're broadcasting live on tape from SBM Studios, high atop Westnedge Hill in the beautiful happening city of Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's Southwest Michigan's fake radio show. What? Show number 79, y'all.
Is it really?
79.
Because we didn't do last week.
I hate to pat ourselves on the back for shit we're supposed to do.
No, you don't.
Wait, here's a trophy.
Yeah.
However, 79. Who thought?
Who'da thunk it?
Right?
I
pretty
had
sweet.
22 in the pool.
You lose.
Blew by that.
Joke's on you. We're still coming every week.
Yeah. That's right. We just show up.
Get out of my house.
It's not that he wants to keep doing it. We just keep showing
up.
Right.
All right. We hope you're finding time today to take very good care of yourself. We're so glad you're here. Welcome. If you're joining us for the first time, hop on board. This is a good show to listen to because we're doing something very special, but we'll get to that later. I'm Diane, one of your hosts. I'm a Libra. I have a dog named Max and 2 kids. And to my right, you might call him the Candyman of the drones, the leading rock and roll authority in Southwest Michigan, celebrating 30 plus years on the air. He has a dash cam. He's not afraid to use it. By the way, when are those dash cam videos going to start up again?
He posted one up last week.
I put one out last
I
week.
must have missed it.
It was not very eventful.
It wasn't.
Okay.
But it pissed me off.
And he got hammered by
And
people.
he got,
Yeah.
Yes.
And I said, shut, I'm not taking comments. I was getting ready to pass this woman, and she busted over into the left lane.
Was she singing Prince Delirious?
No. She was
Okay.
listening to LRB. And And she went over in front of me for no reason and then bounced back into the right lane immediately. So that was all I had.
Was she texting?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
But I have the dash cam so that when that event happens,
Yeah, you got it.
it'll happen.
He's
Right.
prepared.
Then the shit's going to go down.
He's the Boy Scout.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Where was I?
It's going to go down.
I can guarantee you that his basement is cooler than yours. He's pretty fly for a white guy. He's Scotty Bud Melvin, everybody. Woo,
there.
woo. All right, right in front of me. She's queen of hockey, an icon of the local fashion scene, the master of all social media, has endless patience with me.
I'm a fashion icon right
She
now.
has a new kitchen with shiplap, but that doesn't mean she thinks she's better than you. She's the wind above my wings, and most likely will bring it into noise and to funk.
Both of them.
She's Steph.
Hello. Hello, hello.
Hey, y'all.
Looking quite fashion iconic right now.
We have a great sponsor. Scott, you want to tell us about her?
Yeah, why not? Glad to have her. Michelle Brown is her name. She works for Remax.
Have you talked to her, by the way?
Recently?
Yeah, recently.
I have chatted with her online.
Has she liked my little tag for her?
I
Did you not bring it up?
did
He
not
didn't
bring it up.
ask.
It was
Well, if
not an
she-
official meeting.
If she didn't bring it up, then I think we
What is it
know.
again?
If you're looking for a house around town, call Michelle Brown.
Okay. She's not going to say anything right away. She'll get back to you. Her website is brownadvantageteam.com. She works for Remax Advantage and Portage. They're right there on Westnedge in front of Sam's Club, in case you're wondering. There's a big old honking building there with 700 Remax realtors. So if you're looking to sell your home, or if you are looking for a home and need somebody, hook up with Michelle and she will help you out. It is a good time to sell
Yes.
right now.
Yeah, it is. I got a friend right now
So-
that's they're looking at buying a house.
Yeah.
They have been outbid ludicrously. Is that a word?
That's what's happening,
Sure.
isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, just crazy overbids right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, great.
So
great
you
for her.
can get, like I've told everybody that I've heard from her and my realtor friends, if you have a home that's ready to go, not beat up, not a piece of crap, not a fixer-upper, it's ready to go. And it's a good time for that right now. And sometimes you're getting more than what you're asking because you get 4 and 5 people and
Yeah.
oops,
And they really want it.
they really want it.
Okay. This is this special thing going on right now. This is huge, but I'm going to let him explain it. So in the studio with us is a very special guest, all the way from L.A.,
Lower Alabama.
Lansing area.
Oh,
The incredibly talented and successful host of the very popular and super cool Storytellers Network podcast. He's an author, speaker, marketer, teacher, amazing dad and husband. Our longtime friend and guru, Dan the Moyle.
Dan the Moyle.
Thank you so much for being here.
thanks for having me, guys. I am stoked about this.
We are this is fun.
So I figured your listeners have heard you guys tell stories a ton. 79, 78. This is 79. Which, by the way, is awesome. You avoided pod fade and you haven't just given up. So
We did. Is that what it's
Pod
called?
fade.
Pod
Is that a
fade.
thing?
yeah. I'm kind of in the midst of it myself right now. Like, okay, I've got, this will be
Don't
my
fade.
second season. I'm not
Don't
going
fade.
to. I'm not going
Okay.
to.
Is there a
See,
number?
but you have to come up with content.
Well, fortunately for
We
me, I
just
just
show
ask
up.
people. I'm just like, hey, no, see, you guys talk. I get to ask questions, so that's the fun part for me.
Right, that's true.
But yeah, it's that whole idea of just you get it to, I don't know, 20 was what you guys said at the
I feel
early
like
on.
it, yeah.
8 to 10 is actually about where people really fade off. 8 to
Really?
10, they just stop.
If I may,
Yeah.
I have a secondary podcast that I do by myself called Kalamazoo's Podcast. That faded because I got through my first wave of what I wanted to do. And now I'm only going to do things that I'm really interested in.
Okay, well, that's still
So I'm
cool.
going to be very picky about that. And
You
now-
are going to be picky?
Huh?
What?
Who's... And since summer's here,
Yeah.
see you in November. So I know
On
what you're
hiatus.
talking about.
Are biting.
Yeah.
Yeah, season 2.
But
Season 1 was
Scene.
how many episodes?
however, before we get to Dan and his brilliance and all that, and he
Yeah, I did intro him.
turns the tables on us here in a second. I do want to have
Off the
each of the
rails.
1, 2, 3 of you on that said podcast,
Oh.
so that we can tell your story because that's part of my
look at
podcast
you.
as well.
All right.
Oh, were
Telling
you-
the story of people I know, have worked with, or people who have
Wait, are you
influenced
saying
me.
you want us on
Yes,
your
we already
podcast?
discussed this.
Yeah, we did.
I don't remember
Because
that.
you begged to be on it, remember?
I did.
You did.
So, yeah.
I got the sympathy ask.
Yeah. Because
You
really,
didn't get here till the mid 90s, whatever.
Yeah,
sure.
who
Come on. Who cares?
anywho,
East Sider.
everybody has their
Side.
own story. So that's
awesome.
and that's what you do, right, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah,
that's the name of your freaking podcast.
Storytellers Network, baby.
Right.
It's awesome.
Which is so sweet because there's stories never end.
Yeah. Well, and-
Never. Everybody's got a story. What's your dream? Everybody got a dream.
and so many people, want to tell better stories. Whether you're a business owner, you're a brand of some kind, your own personal story, whatever it is, podcaster, you want to tell your story better. So I'm trying to help inspire people to tell better stories. There's other podcasts out there that will tell you, strategies and tactics and teach you. And Donald Miller, Build a Better Story brand. Amazing guy. Park Howell, The Business of Story for business storytellers. Great guys. I'm not competing with them necessarily. I just want to inspire by telling stories that people haven't heard maybe.
Okay.
So
I read Donald Miller's emails. I'm on his list.
Oh yeah,
I don't.
Who is Donald Miller?
He's a podcaster.
Oh,
and an author and a
Yeah.
marketing agency owner. And
okay.
Yeah.
Story brand is his whole big
Yep.
thing. So, and I take a lot of my cues from that, on how to tell a better story as a marketer. So, but my whole idea is to inspire people, and I just give them the idea too. In my season 1 was writers. So, authors, bloggers, website writers, anybody like that writes in some way. And one of my guests was someone that I go to church with that wrote her first book like just a year ago.
Oh, really?
And I thought this is kind of cool. And it was an inspiring story. She and her husband, just real quick, she and her husband lost a son at like 13 months old or whatever he was.
I listened to that one.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Real young. And so with her faith, got through that with her husband and is now giving back to others, 20 years later. So she's had a lot of time to kind of reflect on that. And so just to interview her, like she would never have that opportunity. She'd never be invited to Oprah's podcast.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she
Right.
got mine. Sorry, Tammy.
Oprah the Moyle. Oprah the Moyle.
But yeah, so that's my idea. And I reached out to you guys and nobody said no, so here I am.
We wouldn't say no. You're the Moyle.
Well, Scott might, but he's just grumpy.
Well, that's all right.
I'm just here to push buttons.
That's all right. I love it.
And
It's
look
all
pretty.
good. So yeah, so I reached out to you guys, just said, hey, look, season 2 is podcasters. And I've interviewed some amazing people and some great shows, and I wanted to include Southwest Michigan's Fake Radio show. I'm a big fan, and just I just wanted to talk story with you guys.
Have you done a show yet? And I haven't listened to all of them. I know you and I have talked about this. I have like podcast
Fatigue?
ADD. No, ADD.
Oh.
I start listening to one and might switch to a different episode or a different podcast complete. I rarely listen to an entire one start to finish. I'm not in the car long enough, first of all.
Okay.
And I don't listen at home. So anyway, but have you done one yet where you've talked to more than one person at a time?
No.
So this is your first time
this
with
is my first time.
multiple.
Oh, okay.
This is my first time.
Nice.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is, Dan comes from such an incredible broadcasting producer background that he's already got all that. He's already got the tools to be able to do all of that. So that's really cool.
Well, thanks.
That probably is what sets you apart from these other people that start their podcasting, because you already have the broadcasting experience, and you've been a producer, and you've been, a writer, or copywriter, and all that kind of stuff, news writer, so
Content
journalist.
creator.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think that's what helps set me apart a little bit. Is
Oh,
that
sure.
I have that, and
I think
just
so,
a
too.
passion for it. I love hearing
and
stories.
plus, your personality is
Yeah.
great.
You're easy to
Yeah.
talk to.
Yeah,
thanks.
exactly.
Thanks.
You're not intimidating, like
I
yoo-hoo.
He's not even paying
looking.
attention
I know.
right now.
Are you jabbing me?
She was.
You're scary.
I'm taking notes to make you sound better.
Are you?
I didn't catch what you said.
I said you're intimidating.
There's an irony there.
I said sometimes you're intimidating.
I can't. Hello.
He's busy.
All right.
He's playing.
He's got his
tic-tac-toe with himself.
shandy. He's
He's all right.
good.
We'll be right
He's
back.
good.
So I wanted to start with you guys. So we're talking storytellers. Do you guys consider yourselves storytellers? Each of you, any of you, all of you?
I
Who
don't.
do you want to answer that?
Yeah.
Whoever looks at me. Scott, what do you think?
I do sort of, only because I'm in the radio business,
Yeah.
and I used to be a pretty decent writer of things, but not so much anymore. You know, used to be on the morning show, high profile, lots of shit going on, lots of writing. I would write everything I did, pretty much. Any bits, any songs, what else helped me out?
Commercials.
I was known for ranting, silly rants.
Best. No.
And
was.
so in that sense, yes.
Yeah.
But in a weird, offbeat kind of a Saturday Night Live comedy kind of a sense.
Yeah.
Not so much a true, serious, sit-down, structured storyteller.
Right, but what we do every week on the podcast is tell stories about
True.
our week.
True.
So
that's
we do
true.
tell
Very
little
unstructured.
we tell little mini stories
Yeah.
about our life, and I think sometimes that's what I want to hear from other people. That's what I mean. You see these reality shows and you wonder why they're popular at all, because I've never been into them. But I think in terms of a podcast, we let people in. Mm-hmm. We let people into our lives, and it always surprises me when we were on the air and when we're doing this podcast, people pick it up and then they follow what's going on with us, right? Mm-hmm. And I've done the same thing listening to people's podcasts and listening to the stories of their lives. I gravitate in terms of podcasts. I gravitate towards the people who tell stories of their lives and what's going on. Like, what's going on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
You know, like a little peek inside somebody's life. And it, maybe to them it's mundane,
Yeah.
but it's something that we share, and
Can
so
get
I think
mundane.
we tell little stories. Yeah,
I have a blog. I don't blog.
Steph is a great writer,
but well, okay.
Please accept
He has interviewed great writers.
Well, to me, you're a great writer.
Not in that category.
I loved your blog,
And so, yeah, that's exactly what Diane just talked about, is what my blog was. It was my way of telling what happened, either over a day, a week, towards the end of it. It would be once a year that I would post.
So you had blog fade.
I had blog fade. I did.
Yeah.
Really, I think what happened is, I know exactly what happened. First of all, life got busy, but it also became less fun for me because of the pressure I put on myself. I felt like I had to create content, and that's instead of live life. And that's where I drew the line for me. I got so consumed with living life by what was bloggable, blog-worthy. And I put too much pressure on myself to come up with stuff, and it sucked the fun right out of it for me.
Do you think
So I stopped.
Do you think that's a challenge with storytelling? Is if you're pouring into it personally, do you all of a sudden
I think it can be
become your story?
Yeah, I think that absolutely. I think it depends on the personality. I think there are people whose personalities that probably wouldn't bother them at all. That's probably part of what drives them to be really good at it. I'm not wired like that, I guess. Putting too much pressure on myself isn't it, but it was exactly what you said. Pouring so much of myself into, instead of just living life, I was living life to create the blog, and that was that I recognized that and went, this isn't fun anymore. So
I've found, for me, it's better, because I had a blog for a while as well. It comes and goes, and I find that it's better for me to do it when it becomes something happens, rather than every Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday I'm going to do this. Then it sucks.
Mine was never that structured.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, if I do it when something cool happens, I can bust out something entertaining, even if it's a couple of little quips or a very short thing. Then I find the quality is better. So it's a quality over quantity situation.
Yeah.
That's how I am.
That's
because
yeah.
I can remember on the air physically writing things every day. It got hard to force yourself to do it when there's nothing there. It'd be like, oh, we got to do another rant today. Oh, what the hell? Nothing's going on. But
and you got to pull it out of your
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and I got nothing. But if it's something that happens organically or accidentally, now it's coming out and I can't stop it.
Those were the mornings you had to poke the bear. You knew he needed to rant, and it was
I
like,
was just gonna
do
say
all the
something.
stuff to
Right.
piss him off,
And I
just to
would
get him
scribble.
in the mood.
Yeah.
It was equally as hard for me to keep all those bits coming.
Well, we could go behind the scenes if you want, but some of my favorite
You know,
ones.
for me, I like to fly by the seat of my pants.
I know.
I like to just come out with something like, I never saw such a thing.
Right.
I never heard of such a sausage.
Right.
Sorry, Dan. That's a little inside.
It
All
is.
right. I'm following a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
I can just hear it.
We should probably do that one some other time.
Right.
So radio is obviously a tie that binds us. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys have been in radio. You're still in radio, Scott.
Yep.
Why go from radio, which people might think of as like the big media behemoth, and that's success, to podcasting? Is there a difference? Is there, what?
Well, let me answer that quickly because I quit my job.
Yeah. True.
So I didn't, this podcast, and I'm not going to make this I couldn't possibly make this overly dramatic. This podcast saved me. I was in a very bad place. I had quit my job for a marriage and then got divorced. And the job that defined me. So I let the marriage define me and the job define me, and both of them were over. And I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know what to do because broadcasting was me. I loved it. For a long time, singing was what I wanted to do. And then when I kind of fell into broadcasting, when I came home from being overseas and my band was still there and I fell into broadcasting, it was only a few months after I came back from Japan that I went in and talked to Ed Sackley and I got a job doing overnights, part-time and then overnights. And then when I found myself not in radio and without an identity, really, for me, I was in bad shape. And I thought I'd always wanted to do a podcast, and I talked to Scott and Steph about it for a while, but then it became a point where, come on guys, can we please do this? Because I need it. And I need to have that outlet, and I need to, not that this defines me now, I'm okay, and I've learned how to, roll with it and everything, but going from radio to podcasting, that was, what do I want to say? That was, it's what I had to do for myself and to have that connection and to feel like myself again. So that was me, but Scott is still in radio. So you're probably better to answer that.
I don't know about better. I tell people, and this podcast was her idea, clearly, as she just said, because and I tell people, they ask, what is this podcast you do here? And I have to tell them it's with you. It's with Diane and Stephanie. I worked with both of them, but not at the same time.
Right.
Diane wanted to do it because she wanted to get back behind a microphone.
I did.
And that's what I tell people. And so that's kind of what you said.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're at. My difference is, and I enjoy doing it.
But wait, I also needed that connection with you two because it's good for my soul. It really is good for my soul. You guys are a huge part of me bouncing back. Yes. Like a huge part. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
Go ahead.
that's
Cheaper than therapy too.
Very nice to hear.
It's been
It
great.
is, yes. And I haven't even started charging for studio time. So that's gonna.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt.
Listen
It's
to
coming.
So the
nervous
difference-
laughter.
So for people who don't know, for people that don't know, radio has gotten to where it's not like it was 20 years ago. It's now owned by 3 companies. They're all bankrupt, and they all don't know how to run themselves because they're all run by idiots.
Yes.
So that's where the radio world is now.
Right. It's
Except
sad.
for the handful of mom and pop shops that are still locally owned around the country. I work for one of those. So technically, I get to do what I like to do or want to do as far as my show. I don't get bugged a lot for my radio show. If I want to go on tomorrow and play 50 Van Halen songs and said, I'm a great Van Halen fan, here we go. They'll let me do it. I couldn't do that at a corporately owned radio station. But for the most part, radio is very structured. It has lost its excitement. It has lost its theater of the mind over the years. It's lost a lot of intangibles that are hard to tell people who aren't inside the radio world. So doing a podcast, you get to do whatever you want and kind of pretend it's a radio show.
Exactly.
Which is why every
yes.
comedian in the world has a podcast.
Yeah.
Secretly, they wanted to be on the radio. Secretly, they enjoyed being guests on radio shows, even though all comedians badmouth the morning guys and think they're all idiots. And so when you do your own podcast, you spend $500 on some stuff, you put it in your computer and you upload it to the internet and you say you got your own show. Mm-hmm. You get to do exactly what you want to do. And
That's what radio used to be like.
It used to be that way in radio. It used to be very creative. They used to let the people be creative. Thank God we were in it when it was somewhat like that. Mm-hmm. Steph was kind of in.
I was at the
tail end when
everything
got corporate and watered down.
And then Janet Jackson's boobs popped out.
Janet Jackson boob popped out, and that was the end of it. Yeah.
The boob that ruined it all.
Grand
did.
opening,
the
grand
next
closing.
day,
it
was horrible. And so the difference between radio and the podcast is you get to do what you want on a podcast. There are podcasts that are very nichey. People talk about fishing for barracuda. That's the podcast. Or, Stranger Things, the podcast.
Yeah.
Whereas radio is, now you have to read this thing twice an hour. You have to do this once an hour. You can't talk too long. There's your difference.
So it's a theater of the mind is what you're saying, which I love that.
Yeah, I loved the theater of the mind radio stuff back in the day.
Me too.
So side note, you mentioned the fishing podcast. I'm going to go real deep here for a second with Scott. The connection you gave to me for Kevin Van Dam worked out. He was on that guy's show.
Oh, good.
As he was like, I owe you a steak. Okay, I'll take a steak. But if you're doing a fishing show, give me some fish. No.
Yeah.
So those connections are amazing.
Yeah, someday I'll get Kevin on. He's a busy guy, and I got to get him when this fishing season's over, which is like
I don't know why you're looking at me.
November.
That is one sport I don't follow.
December, January.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Aren't you proud of me for calling it a sport, though?
Yeah.
That is one sport I don't follow, I just said. I need proper credit for that.
I understand.
Okay.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well struck.
Well done, good and faithful servant.
I try.
So the theater of the mind idea, you get to be a storyteller where you want, how you want. I think that's a great reason to be in the podcast medium. And like you said, Scott, it's not that difficult to get into, to be great at it or to build this big empire like some people have.
Right. Oh,
but,
for sure.
But to get into it, anybody can do it, which is good and bad. So.
This can become anything.
Yeah.
Like if any of us had the time to really pound the pavement and go out and get sponsors and get, and do all this could be huge. And maybe someday we'll have the time to do that and, broadcast from downtown. And we've done a live broadcast. Maybe we'll do another one, maybe at Louis coming up again, but
let me know.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was so much fun. That was so much fun. But that's just it. The podcast can be anything.
Yep.
We are not held down by anything.
Right. You can make your own rules. You can do whatever you want. It's not that expensive. The only problem we have is time.
Yeah.
And we're 3 adults, 2 of them with kids. Mine's in college, so I don't have to sweat that too much. But it's we're all busy every night of the week.
Yeah.
Diane's busier than hell.
So is Steph. I mean, between...
She's in the car all the time, back and forth, Battle Creek. Steph's got 2 kids that are never home.
Yeah.
Freaking playing something every night. Me, I'm laying on the couch in my underwear. So maybe that should be a podcast.
Fighting the raccoons.
Fighting raccoons.
Thanks for getting off the couch. I'm glad. I wish you would have put shorts on.
And
That's fine.
I do what I can. The thing about our podcast is we're going off the rails already.
That's right.
Right.
The thing about our
had to have expected it.
The thing about our podcast is we had a head start to the whole thing because we all have knowledge of sitting in front of microphones and producing something.
Yeah.
Yes.
As the same with Dan. Obviously,
we're comfortable
with you.
on a mic,
so
we didn't need that. I mean, but if you do listen to the first few, it took me a while to get back in the old saddle.
Scott said he was going to take those down.
I don't want to take them down.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Not at all.
I blame myself, though, because technically they sounded terrible. Because I accidentally left the laptop microphone on while also recording through the mics. That's why they sound terrible.
That's happened to me in the
still
first few
beats
too.
himself
Yes.
up, and Diane and I are like,
With
whatever,
me, it
dude.
was just content, and I was
Whatever.
nervous about being back on a microphone and everything. I hadn't been on in a long time, and I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you all are back.
Oh,
Thank you.
So how do you think social media affects storytelling? You guys have gone from radio, blogging, writing. Steph, you do stuff for marketing and things.
Yeah.
How does social media right now affect that craft of storytelling?
I feel like social media has affected it. Social media has done a lot of good things. You're asking this question in a time though where my view on that specific question is that social media has given everybody a voice, much like podcasts. Like you said, it can be good and bad, right? And I feel like people are utilizing social media to tell the stories that aren't necessarily interesting, uplifting, positive, or all that creative. It's given people a license to bitch, and so their story oftentimes reflects negativity or a bad experience, and not all of it, but so it's harder to weed through and find the golden nuggets because there's so much out there that's not that.
There's so much noise now.
So much noise. And I don't even mean like on traditional media. I'm not even talking politics. I'm not even talking that. I'm talking normal, every day-to-day, the kind of stuff you would blog about, the kind of stories I used to blog about, which were things mostly about my kids that I thought were funny, or memories of, things from my childhood or whatever. And those stories, I feel like are harder and harder to find because everybody's telling their story, their instant story, their right now story, and it's 140 characters instead of character development or story development. So I think part of the craft, social media has taken part of that creativity away. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
But I think true stories, somebody's true story, when you dig deep, is still gold.
Well,
and like when you dig deep, I mean, like Steph said, there's so much noise and so much clutter, and everybody's got a voice. That's why podcasts like yours, though, are so good and so necessary, because you want to dig deep. And I've talked about this before. One of my projects I want to do, it's like, I hate the term bucket list, but it's on my, I really want to do this before, my time runs out, is I want to be able to provide a service to people where I go in and interview their grandpa, interview their uncle, get that on tape, or, not on tape, but you know what I mean? Get it, do a video of it and talk to them and really talk to them, have them put some pictures out, and we talk about what's going on. I wish I had that with my great grandpa. He was full of stories, and now they're still part of my memory, but I just wish I had that. Stories are so, so important. Maybe now more important than ever.
It's funny you say that because of social media. So I was just sort of negative Nancy on the social media part of this. But if it weren't for social media today, I would not have seen a post from Kalamazoo Public Schools. Maple Street School at some point this week had a Holocaust survivor in, and he was talking to the kids at Maple Street, and his message was, don't be the bully. If you see somebody getting bullied, he told his story, and if you see somebody being bullied, be the kind, be the good, go and stop the negative and be positive. And it was a touching story. The kids were hugging this guy. I mean, it was adorable, and I never would have known that story were it not for social media.
Well, and think about this. Now you can download all your data on Facebook and all your data on Instagram. Let's say something happened to me and I was gone tomorrow. My life, so to speak, has been documented on Facebook, at least the highlights, since 2008. So my kids can download that and look at it. You know what I mean? It's like an online diary, so to speak. I mean, but we're not putting in deep thoughts on Facebook.
Some
and
people
unfortunately, the post I just made wouldn't be some people wouldn't be the best thing on the planet. My kids riding dirty.
Come on, Mom, again.
God.
.com.
That's funny.
Yes.
Oh, don't go there. That's got to be a site.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean that may be a way that social media has changed it, because now our stories are documented somewhat on social media.
That's a great point. It's funny you mentioned grandpa and uncle, because this summer I'm going to get a camera and I'm going to sit down with my grandfather who's coming to town from South Carolina. And on my dad's side, his brother, my uncle, is the oldest right now of his siblings. I'm going to interview him too. So
do
That's
it, and you'll
awesome.
always have it,
That's
and you'll be
awesome.
so
I can't wait.
happy that you did.
Yeah.
I just wish I had. It's a huge regret of my life, because God, I talk about my grandparents and my everybody to my kids. I'm like, gosh, I wish you knew them.
My grandfather, my dopper, he was the best storyteller. In my lifetime, he's the best storyteller.
Let me ask you a question, Dan.
Yeah.
Do you feel that we're losing the art of storytelling? Like she just said, Dopper was the best storyteller ever, and I felt like that about my great grandpa and my grandpa Vonovich. What do you think about the art of storytelling? Is it alive and well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. Because I don't think, first of all, social media will not overtake the act of sitting down and crafting a story. Whether it's writing, whether it's talking, whether it's interviewing, whatever it is, it won't take the place of that. I do think also, and as I've interviewed some people over the last year here at Storytellers Network, I've heard again and again that social media, when it has to be 140 characters or has to be a 10-second video on Instagram or whatever, 15, whatever they are now, you have to be more creative sometimes. You can just sit and bitch about your life, like you said, Steph, and just use all your 140 characters on that. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But there are those out there, those people out there, those creatives who are using it in a very creative way. And so it's creating this new craft of storytelling where you can do it in 140 characters. I mean, the urban legend, I don't know if it's true or not, I can't find if it is, the shortest story ever told was from Ernest Hemingway, right? Ballet slippers for sale, never used, or something like that. Like it tells an entire story in like six words.
I've heard about that.
And supposedly it was Hemingway. Now I've tried to look it up, and all you can find is Wikipedia, and don't trust that.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so you can tell a story succinctly, and some people are doing that. Now, I do agree though. What Steph said is that whole negative side of things.
Right.
I try to really craft my social media intake with following more positive people.
Right.
If I see a bunch of negative, I'm just going to hide you. I may not unfriend you, but I'm going to hide you.
Yeah.
I follow like Good News Network.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
That kind of stuff. Even just this week, I mean, that story of that kid that struck out his friend.
Oh, that was so touching.
And he hugs him. Like, that's
so
awesome.
touching.
So things like that, I think social media really kind of adds to the storytelling world.
I agree. I wish I could glom onto that more. I find myself using Twitter for meanness. Where, although today's tweet was a funny one about drinking a lot of beer this weekend because it's going to be 95.
Yeah, that was funny.
And I wanted to do a partnership with Leinenkugels for Summer Shandy, but they
I
don't know
believe
it
you
yet.
announced it. I was going to say.
I said they don't know it
it's
yet,
not
but we're
just-
partnering with them this weekend. So I thought that was somewhat clever
It was.
and yet funny and blah, blah, blah. But I do find myself jumping into being mean sometimes just because it's instant.
Yes.
It's like you think about it. I think this is stupid or whatever. Bang it out. You can hammer it out, and in 5 seconds you have gratified yourself that you did it and it's up, and somebody's going to see it, damn it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of that is. And I'm still 85% radio personality, so I still have to be that guy. And that's what I'm walking.
Well, you want to come up with something snarky or pithy or something like that. That's gonna
kind of what I'm known for.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm on this
Right.
tightrope where I still want to be the cool blogger, drone, photo guy, but I'm still 85% radio guy.
Well, none of us want to put out
So I'm
something
walking,
lame,
Right.
Because we're all former broadcasters. I
Right.
mean, you have to you have a certain sense of well, I can't throw out something lame.
Yeah.
Because there's so much. There's 90% lame on Facebook.
Right. My beef with the social media thing as far as storytelling is concerned is nobody takes the time to do stuff anymore. Whereas I used to hammer out it used to take me an hour to write a 1-minute bit that was going to be on at 8 o'clock, and it's 7 o'clock, and I got to get this thing written. And it would take me an hour, and I would write it and literally scribble, cross out, scribble, cross out. Now you can do it in 10 seconds. That's what the social media thing is. Boom, 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 boom. So in that sense, it kind of sucks because now you've got a whole generation of kids who, and that's what worries me, is the generational thing. You now have an entire generation of kids who don't know cursive. They don't know, half of them don't know how to type.
They'd rather text than talk.
All they know how to do is use their thumbs on their cell phone. I'm worried about that.
Hey, my wife's in her 40s. She doesn't talk either. She texts.
Are you kidding me? I'm going to give her a really hard time.
She's an introvert. She doesn't want to be on the phone.
Yeah,
I had dinner with a friend of mine last night,
Yeah,
and
you're
we
right,
were
Scott.
talking about how I get annoyed. I can text the short text back and forth, or like Steph and Scott and I, a little bit snarky.
Shut up.
Bitchy.
No, you shut up.
I'm sorry, snarky. What I
By
mean
the way,
is bitchy.
By the way, snarkastic.
Yeah.
Snarkastic. I like that.
Snark.
Awesome.
It's snarky and sarcastic
I like
together.
it.
Snarkastic. It's freaking awesome.
Tell her where you got it.
Oh, Gilmore Girls.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Don't
that's
tell anybody I
interesting.
watched that.
Snarkastic.
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I'd much rather pick up the phone. If we're getting into a lengthy conversation, I just call.
Yeah.
And then if they don't pick up, I'm like, really? You're
She's
texting
done that to me.
Yeah.
She's done that to me.
Call
Pick
me.
up the phone.
Yeah.
I can't always. Sometimes I
can't.
can't.
I mean, some people can't.
Yeah.
The
If I'm
texting
in
is
my office
easier.
with 3 other people,
Right.
I can't pick up my phone.
And
right
if
that
I'm
second.
at work, I've got to text, but I'm not a fan of texting at all.
Yeah, technology, like any tool, can help or hurt.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
all depends on how we use it.
Yeah.
I think generationally there are some concerns, but I also see some great things in the millennial generation and Gen Z. Like our kids are not even millennials; they're Generation Z, whatever that's going to be called someday.
Yeah.
And so, but like my
It's
kids,
crazy.
both storytellers, they're writers, artists. Of course, neither of them have social media either. So maybe that's the
Oh,
that's the
wow.
key.
That's the trick.
Really?
Yeah, they're 12 and 13 and no social media.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good
That's
for you.
pretty good, dude.
But
Gracie's on Instagram, so is Jude, but he doesn't really use it much.
all of Ava's friends are, but she knows. She's like, no, and she says, I don't really want it. There's too much crap on there. Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, and I've had quite a few millennial generation people work with me, work for me. I've interacted with. Man, there are some creative, amazing people out there.
Yep.
Right.
So true.
They found different ways.
Yeah.
A lot of video people now,
Yeah.
people think they're going to live on YouTube the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And some will, but very small percentage.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to, your creativity does have to come up in that. So that's one good thing at least.
This is a conversation definitely for another time. But if you could go back to the time, like remember when we would have to rip and read and we'd have to splice tape together and all this kind of stuff, would you go back to it? I would. I'm not a big fan of, we've had it, the internet and all that kind of stuff, the internets,
The interwebs.
I wish we could go back. I was talking to Jude and Gracie the other day, and letting them know, it was tough when I was in Japan because I just had a payphone in my apartment, and my parents couldn't get a hold of me. They didn't know what I was doing. There was no FaceTiming or anything like that, and we didn't have. There was no email, so I couldn't. We couldn't keep in touch. But I'm not so sure that things are better with what we have.
But we have to be careful too, don't you think, that of nostalgia taking over? And we think about, gosh, it'd be great in the good old days when we all rode horses, we didn't have pollution, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but think of the horse crap that you had to smell everywhere.
I
And
know.
house. So,
Yeah.
Right.
there's pros and cons to all of it.
You're right. You're absolutely
That's
right.
why I always say the internet was the greatest thing ever invented, and it was the worst thing ever invented.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Scott. That's
Other than
perfect.
the pocket fisherman.
Right.
But
Fair enough. So for me, talking to some of these storytellers, we all have our milestones in life. We all have our goals, our bucket list. We all have our careers, whatever this looks like for us. Making it means something different to everybody. And this question doesn't mean, I don't want to frame it in the sense that you've made it and so you're done. Like done striving or done whatever. But what milestones have each of you gotten to? Scott, I'll start with you. That kind of made you feel like, look around and go, man, I've kind of made it in the world. Have you gotten to that point at all? Have you been able to look around and say, man, this is cool?
I have, in one respect, and it wasn't while I was in the middle of it, because I had a 15-year run where I was at a very successful morning show from 1990 to 2005. And it was a really good run. I mean, you know, for those who don't know, it was a very highly promoted and active morning show. Okay, and these two were part of that the last 10 years. And in the middle of it, I didn't think about it that much. Once in a while, you'd have a moment where you'd be like, "Yeah, this is great."
Yeah.
But later on, after I got canned unceremoniously, another podcast later we'll do on that. I may do that one solo so that nobody can interrupt me. But anyway, that was not nice. It wasn't called for.
There's a lot we could add.
that was tweetable.
Later on, when I started thinking about stuff, there were a few moments where I realized it was a successful venture and I should be happy that it happened. And a couple of those things were, I can remember early on where people would meet me or I would meet them, and people started repeating things that I had said. And that was one of the first things that got me a little freaked out.
Yeah.
I said that a couple of years ago. Oh yeah, I remember you said blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why did you remember that? And people did that a lot, you know. And that to me was one of the first things that I found that was satisfying.
Yeah.
You know. And it happened quite a bit, you know, over the years.
Yeah.
That was neat.
It was a very popular show. I mean,
yeah. So
I grew up listening to it.
Oh, thank you.
Before
grew up?
I got to the radio
He just
station.
called you old.
No.
I've got those too.
Oh, I get that a lot.
Yeah, we still get that.
I still get that.
Yeah.
Like, you
We
know,
used to listen to you on the bus.
Yeah, we listen to you on the bus.
Yeah.
The attorney where I work now, the in-house attorney counsel, he said that to me. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'd listen to you on the bus,"
So
or
just think,
when my dad and
he
I
went
were
to
driving.
high school and college and law school since then.
Thanks,
I
Steph.
love you.
My stock answer was always,
Wow, it just got real.
Can you hear
It
this?
did.
Would you like me to turn
Don't
it up
do
for
that.
It's good.
I'm glad there's no video today.
you? Yeah, why aren't we videoing
Yeah.
this?
That's okay.
I don't know.
Be a multi-camera shoot.
Yeah. My stock answer to that was always, your bus driver let you listen to our morning show?
Yeah.
I know. That was always
yeah.
going through my head.
They
I
should have
never
been
wanted to
fired.
say that, but
So what do you think for you guys? I mean, has there been a point? I mean, and gosh, Diane, you mentioned earlier you were in a band. You were in Japan. You've been in radio. I mean, have you looked around your life at any point and said, man, this is pretty charmed?
no, because it just went downhill.
Come on.
She peaked at
Wah,
23.
No, yeah, that's a sad thing. You know, I'll think about the times I was on the. I feel like Lola. She was a showgirl a little bit. You know, it's a little bit depressing, but the upside is that there's so much more I want to do. You know, I had this conversation with Brian Vander Ark in the studio one time. He had to reevaluate what making it is, you know, because they went to the top. Yeah, they went to the top. He was in a movie with Jennifer Aniston. Was it Rockstar? Was it
Rockstar.
Rockstar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And they did all that, and then they saw a bunch of people on the way back down, right? And then it took a while, and now what he's doing. In fact, when I talked to them, he had just started the lawn chairs and living rooms thing.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. And just start coming back, and they have children's CDs that they do, but they do so much more. And the Verve Pipe now is bigger. Their show is unbelievable. I saw them at 20 Monroe Live, and I thought, oh my God. Compared to the shows I watched at Club Soda, this is mind-blowing, and it's mind-blowing. So he had to reevaluate what making it is. And I think I've said this to some of my musician friends. It's like you're part of the 1% of the 1%. You get to do what you love, what you're passionate, and you're surviving and making a living, and you get to do that. You may not be on MTV or whatever the litmus test for that is now. You may not be, talked about on Page 6 or TMZ, but you have made it. You get to do this thing that's so amazing. I say that to all my musician friends that are working regularly. Now, for me, I miss singing. That'll always be like in my heart, but I'm not a singer anymore. You know, I am to my kids. But I miss broadcasting. I really do. And so I still have so much more I want to do. So in terms of making it, no. But I did feel at one time, I mean, the same thing Scott did when we were on the show. I thought, wow, this is the shit. You know, I feel really good. I loved it. I loved what I did. I loved the morning show. It was such a huge part of me. I really loved it. And that's why this makes me so happy, because this is all the best of it right here.
Well, and don't you think, I mean, reevaluating what making it looks like, redefining it, you know, you've had the chance to travel, then you had 2 wonderful kids.
Oh my God.
Who are just amazing human beings.
I wouldn't change anything.
And you get to...
maybe something.
2 things.
We all know.
Here and there. But, you know, now you get to record and broadcast with these 2 and like and be with your kids. You're not waking up at 4 a.m.
Yes.
to go to the state. Like you're good.
Although
right?
if we were given the opportunity, the 3 of us were given the opportunity to do a morning show the way we wanted to do it, I would beat them down until they said yes. I would be okay with getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I would beat them.
Look at
I
them.
would beat them both down. I would be relentless.
They
I'm like,
couldn't pay
let's
us
do
enough.
it. If they did,
true.
if they did,
did.
it would be. It would be like, it was fun. But again, that's a little bit of the Lola, she was a showgirl part.
I love that.
So,
And for the record, I would do a morning show again.
yes.
Yeah, but whoever
Would you do it with
ask-
us?
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
but we'd have to be paid
it, Dano.
enough.
We gotta start a station.
I
Let's
would
do it.
turn it. Yeah. Well, I could buy one right now, but I don't have $5 million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I want to know, it's my big Barbara Walters moment in broadcast, the big question, what scares you or whatever the question is, right? Mine is this: if you could only tell one last story and you couldn't tell any more stories, what would that be? What would that look like for you? How would you go out, Steph?
Oh man, I hate that question.
You're welcome.
You hate his favorite question?
I hate his favorite question. Well, it's because, and this kind of goes back to, I didn't answer the last question, but this question ties into that, the making it. I have, in my life, never been tied to, I don't know what making it is, because I'm not wired like that. What does it mean to make it? If I only had one story to tell again, does it really only have to be one? Can it really only be
See
one?
what she's doing?
I don't know.
See, this is the on the side.
She's
This is
changing
the
the
Sally
rules
and
to
me.
your
Tell me.
question.
This is the on
So,
the side.
This is the on the
She's
side.
ordering off the menu.
But
is
here's
what she's
it all
doing.
ties
She's
together.
ordering
'cause
in a way that the chef didn't
didn't
even know how
it
good it could be.
existed.
Yeah.
It's true. Here's the thing. I made it the day I had my children. That was my making it. I was meant to be a mom.
Literally.
I was meant to be a mom. If there were only 2 stories, because I have 2 kids that I could tell, it would be to sit each of them down and tell them how I felt the day they were born. That would be my story, because I've never felt like that. And not just how I felt, how their dad and I felt. Because none of that would be, I wouldn't be where I am or who I am without him.
But haven't you told them that story?
I don't know.
You haven't
but
sat
it,
him down
it
and
doesn't.
said,
But he
"Here's
didn't
how it
say
went
it
down"?
had to be a story I'd never told.
I know. I'm just saying.
I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I don't know if I feel like it might freak my children out if I told them how very much my world revolved around them.
All right,
Yeah,
you can wait.
and how powerful it was for me when they were born.
And it'll mean more to them if you tell them later,
Yeah.
because they'll
'Cause
understand more.
I'll get the eye roll right now.
Right.
Yeah,
You'll
Mom,
get the
you
eye
told
roll. What's
us.
for dinner?
We get it.
Right. I agree.
It hurt. Got it. Like,
Or they look at you and go,
Yes,
are
it
you
hurt.
dying? I don't.
And
Where's
I know
Dad?
it's anticlimactic. That's not a very compelling
not
story, but that
anticlimactic.
is
No, 'cause I can understand
that
that.
is.
I mean,
that's-
it's
Well, you put a lump in my throat. I mean, that's a story that you would want to. I mean,
it's the
It
most
is.
powerful thing.
I love it.
It also, I think, is why my blog, why I got such joy out of it, because it was, my kids are they inspire me every day in different ways, and I know I don't show it every day because I can be a raging lunatic mother, and I understand that. But they really are what motivates much of what we do. And there are people that say, "Oh, your kids shouldn't be the center of your world," and they're not. I am my own person. I mean, you guys know me. I'm not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I am my own person,
Right, you
but
are.
they inspire me to be better.
Yeah, that's a great last story. Diane, how about you? What would your last story be, do you think?
A lot of it has to do with. I'm gonna cry.
Good.
Of course you are.
Here we go. Now we're on Barbara Walters or Oprah.
Here we go.
So what Steph said, my kids have been so along the same lines. So life didn't really turn out how people say to me, "Oh, you're a singer, or you were on the air," but all I ever really wanted to be was a wife and a mom. And that didn't really turn out exactly how I thought it was going to. But my kids were like the Three Musketeers. And we've overcome a lot of the sadness or the things that have happened in our lives. And they inspire me every day. And so the greatest, I think what I used to think was the most important thing. I had such dreams, but really it's that love. It's really all about love. And the love that you give each other and the love that you take. And please don't think that I'm quoting the Beatles. but it's true when it comes right down to it. Yeah.
And to me, that means that you've made it.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a great place to be at home.
Yeah. I mean, I could say more, but I just don't want to get into a sob fest. But it's been quite a journey.
And that's a great last story to tell, especially to your kids. All right, Scott. What'll be your last story?
I'll go a different direction. I think if I was going to tell one story, I enjoy telling the story how I met my wife. Because when people are around the dinner table or at the bar, and how'd you guys meet? People that don't know. A lot of your close friends know, but there's always one or two people. So I always like to look at her to see if I get the okay. And then she's like, which version are you going to tell? So I would probably tell that story because I get a kick out of it. And the main reason I get a kick out of it is because when we first met, she did not like me at all. And that's the fun of the story.
Right.
That's awesome.
Because I turned her. Somehow.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's
So, she thought I was a dick. And then a week later, it turned out to be okay. But I knew I was in love with her in like 2 seconds. So
That's beautiful.
I had to work for it.
We all do.
I wear this ring that I got a couple years ago. It's really powerful to me. It says "Own Your Journey," and I still feel like all of us, maybe back in the day, our parents or their parents, our grandparents felt like after they had done, had the kids, bought the house, maybe they felt like their story had been written. But I don't feel that way. I feel like I have more story in me. I still feel like my journey still has yet to unfold, and I feel that about all of us. We still have so much more to write,
Well said. That's all I got for you. Thanks so much for the time, guys. Where's the best way to find either each of you individually or all of you together? Southwest Michigan's Fake Radio Show?
SWM Fake Radio.
At gmail.com and then also on Facebook.
Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah. Steph really
SWM
keeps
Fake
that
Radio.
together.
So even though you hate the social medias, you're on them.
I am.
I feel like we
For
just
this,
had a workout.
for
Begrudgingly.
my job. I am on social media all the time.
But you're bringing the positive, so.
I rejected Twitter for like 2 or 3 years. And then I realized it was free to promote my radio show. And that's why I got on Facebook. I thought Facebook originally was for 13-year-old girls, which I think it was originally, but I jumped on there just because it was free.
Facebook was the Facebook. Remember, it was college. Mark
Yeah.
Zuckerberg and the
That's true.
Winklevoss or
True.
whatever twins.
True.
That poor guy. No one ever talks about him anymore.
Right.
And then on my radio show now, I always tell people, if you want to get a hold of me, you can call me, and I give the phone number, and no one ever calls because no one wants to use the phone. And then I say,
I'll call you.
no, don't call, I'm busy.
Hey, what's going on?
And then I always say, and unfortunately, there's 100 other ways you can get a hold of me. Which is true.
And you wonder why they're not
sad.
reaching out.
I know. I'm just a pain in the
Jerk.
ass.
There's a podcast that I listen to every single day. It's called TBTL. It's out of Seattle. They record it every single day. And I love it when we get email from listeners telling us what our podcast means to them. You know,
Yep.
I've always had a thought, like, I wanted to write the guys on TBTL and go, dude, you have no idea. You got me through some of the toughest times in my life. There were times when the day was so bad that just making me happy was listening to their podcast and escaping for a little bit. Kind of how people would listen to us on the radio when we used to be on. You know, it used to be a good start to their day. Mm-hmm. And I think I love hearing from the people. Do you like hearing from the people that listen to your podcast? It always makes me happy.
Yeah, I wish there were more.
Yeah, so do we.
That's where Podfit comes in. Like, is anyone
Right.
listening? No, I do. When people tell me, I've had guests tell me when I listen to this episode or that episode, I'm thinking, seriously, you listened to it before you came on? That's awesome. Other people have reached out to me. Yeah, it's great connecting with folks. Absolutely.
So still, it's the human
Yep.
interaction. It's
Absolutely.
the human
Yeah.
part of it. Even though we do all this stuff. Speaking of human interaction,
Yes.
Scott mentioned it last podcast, but the big gig tomorrow night, our friend Keith Hall, he offered to let Scott sit in, and Scott's not going.
That's a joke.
It's at the Union tomorrow night, Try 5, all the way from New York City. Keith and Matthew and Phil, and you have their album
It's right there.
right here.
Scott's got one thing he can play. Why would he sit in front of a crowd at the Union and do that to himself?
Well, I was talking to Keith, and he goes, radio royalty.
I told him I've never played with anyone else. Can they do Back in Black? Because I can do half of Back in Black.
Yes. But we're going to make this has to be a podcast event. So anybody that's listening,
God.
so we download it on Thursday. So it's tonight at the Union, Tri-Fi. If you listen to the podcast, stop out at the Union. Anybody want you to stop out, say hi. I'll be there. Cindy, I'll be there with Cindy, and hopefully
Nice.
we can get Casey out. Hopefully we can get you out.
I think I'm busy.
Right.
I swear, I think I'm busy.
All right. Anyway, but anybody, we need to get out there and hang out. That'd be fun. Also, he's there Friday night with Nishone Holloway, and then Tri-Fi's doing a gig at the Sheridan Four Winds Potter's Lounge. I didn't even know that was a thing. And then our friend Lana, she's at Webster's Friday night.
Nice.
Yeah. So great gigs Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night all around town.
Tell
See
Keith thank
Hall.
you.
Yeah. He
Seriously.
thinks you guys are great.
Thanks, Dan. It was
Great guy.
fun.
It
Yeah,
was.
Dan,
was
thank
fun.
you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I hope the listeners enjoy hearing y'all's stories.
And our listeners, the Storytellers Network, the episodes come out on Mondays.
Yep.
And this is the last one of season 2.
I've got 2 bonus ones.
Look
Yeah.
at you.
Oh, bonus
Can you say who your
We
bonus
haven't
guests
thought
are?
about that.
Yeah.
Bonus
Or-
material.
Yeah, bonus is Jordan Harbinger is one of
Okay.
them. He has the Jordan Harbinger show. Used to be on The Art of Charm. Big podcast with Podcast
Yep.
One. And then another one
awesome.
is David Mead, who is a coach. You know David Mead?
Yeah.
He's a coach for Simon Sinek and is a co-writer for with Simon Sinek. I asked for Simon. They gave me David.
Yeah.
He was a great interview.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. So those 2 are my bonus for season 2. Yeah.
Awesome.
You know, you could do that for listeners. You could have them send, like, for really good listeners, you could just give them the bonus material through the email. Although, no.
Yeah.
What?
Put them
Nothing.
on
I'm
Patreon.
laughing.
Are you
That's
laughing
Scott.
because of the time?
I'm laughing because Scott said he had 102 in the pool, and
What
look
is
at
it?
the 102 right now.
I appreciate it, guys. I love y'all. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks so much for being in the studio. Please listen to the Storytellers Network with Dan Moyle. It is so interesting. You're going to love it. We thank you for listening. Like we said, you can find us at SWM Fake Radio on Facebook, swmfakeradio@gmail.com if you want to drop us a line and tell us that you're listening. We love you. Take really good care of yourself and your heart. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, there you have it. Thanks so much to my guests, Diane, Scotty Bud, and Steph of Southwest Michigan's Fake Radio Show. Appreciate you letting me crash the party. And I really appreciate the opportunity and love your show. And hey, listeners, if you want some personality, some Michigan-focused stories, and an hour-long escape, check out their show. I love it. The links for that show and the peoples involved are all in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Storytellers Network, please consider sharing it all over. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, email, text, send a note. Just tell somebody in the street about it. Anywhere you can share with other storytellers is always appreciated. And please consider leaving us a review. In fact, here's one from Dr. Jason Brooks, who has his own leadership podcast. It's a great show, too. I was fortunate to be a guest on his. Listen to it. I love the power he brings to the world in leadership. And Jason says about this, Dan has a passion for bringing out the best in people. His relaxed and natural style of connecting is a breath of fresh air, and the stories he brings through his episodes are motivational. I'm challenged to be better and do better every time and look forward to each conversation with Dan. Thank you so much, Jason. Coming from a fellow conversation guiding podcast host like yourself, man, it's high praise. And if you enjoy the show, you can leave your review there as well on Apple Podcasts. Or if you want to send me a note, email dan@interviewvalet.com. Until next time, here's to telling our stories and having stories to tell. Cheers.